Believe it's been almost a year already with the iPhone 17 Pro and the iPhone Air. In this episode, we're going to take a look at these phones after 10 months. What is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. And now that I got my hyper static intro out of the way, because these have been two of my favorites of the past year in the iPhone landscape, let's go ahead and talk about what we can expect here in terms of, if you were to pick up one of these two. We'll start with the resiliency of the build quality and stuff like that. Now, we are looking at two extremely different profiles here. The iPhone Air being incredibly thin by comparison to iPhone 17 Pro, but where it has shined a bit over the 17 Pro is that they retain the titanium build structure that they had on previous iPhone, just made it way thinner here. Now, also, what comes with the iPhone Air, if you do decide to get it though, is a little bit more fingerprints on the edges, because that's a polished titanium right there. You'll see it a bit more here on this black color option, but if you go with one of the sky blues or one of those lighter colors, it might be a little bit less apparent, but still there. What's always impressed me quite a bit about the Air is just how they were able to cram these buttons into this rail. It's pretty nice engineering. You'll see the volume rockers with like literally almost no area to spare. You also see it down here with the USB-C, a little bit of an area to spare. And one thing I did notice a bit is that it's a little bit lower than the top. So that's a little bit un-Apple-like. Usually it'd be perfectly centered, but probably didn't have the space to do that. One thing that seems impossibly thin is how they got the camera control in there. And then up here at the top, stuffing most of the components within that plateau. Single camera has been a letdown, in my opinion, for this phone. I'm looking forward to a dual camera on the next version, but not everybody really cared about that. Now, for the iPhone 17 Pro, the truth is this phone, it feels soft. And honestly, I don't have any scuffs or marks on it because after I dented my iPhone 17 Pro Max, I've been really watching myself with this one. So this one I've kept pretty clean, but it is susceptible to denting and stuff because it's aluminum. If you hit it on the wrong corner, you'll just see like a little dent mark in the phone if you drop it and stuff like that. Also, the glass is very anti-reflective on both of these, but they're not perfect. Like they are still susceptible to, getting little chips and cracks, and they still can crack. So don't think they're perfect just because they're getting stronger, but they are definitely much stronger. But there's still damage that could be done just with every day. So if you really want to protect your investment, still recommend screen protectors. And for the most part, I still recommend a case specifically on the iPhone 17 Pro because that aluminum just feels soft and slipperier than the iPhone Air over here. So iPhone Air, even though this phone's a little bit taller, a little bit more bigger of a phone, kind of like screen size, it's pretty easy to grip this phone. I think because the rails are thin and they're polished titanium, it feels grippy. That's the best way I can put it. Sometimes actually a case makes this phone more slipperier. For example, the bumper case for the iPhone Air actually made the phone a little bit more slipperier in my experience. I think that's the third time I said slipperier. That's not the counter. We've got the counter at like 4 already for that word. I'm going to shut up talking about that one at this point. Let's talk about the software and stability though. We are running actually two different software. I'm running 26.6 on this one over here. And on this guy, I'm running iOS 27 beta 4. So I've been running the beta 4. And yes, I'm aware Geekbench 6 is the older version. I will be doing Geekbench 7 in the future testing, but we're just checking out the software here. Usually, I would say that the software is kind of similar, but 27 actually has made the phone feel smoother in multiple areas. You'll find just a smoother, more consistent experience in terms of performance. It's also getting a little snappier with animations and stuff like that, but it's pretty slight. But still, I think the 27 is an area of these phones you'll want to upgrade to. The actual performance with the software and everything has been good. They're both running A19 Pro chips, clocked at the same clock speed. There is one difference though that can be apparent if you're a heavier user. The iPhone Air doesn't have quite as good a sustained performance due to its thinner chassis. There's better thermal efficiency on my 17 Pro. And I noticed this a few times. I get these little micro jitters, a little bit stutters here and there on the iPhone Air. They're not like lag, don't get it twisted. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is if you just start the phone up, you just did an update, maybe you have like a heavy game running in the back, or you haven't opened it in a while, you'll get like this little lag going over to the app library, or this little stutter. And you experience that less on the Pro. It just seems to sustain its performance a little bit better over time. But overall, you know, for everyday casual use, both phones are still kind of like the same exact experience in terms of performance. But one area where they're very, very different is going to be in their camera department. So let me bring in this G-Shock watch right here. And I really have to say, is it worth it to have these extra camera lenses? I think it actually is for the iPhone 17 Pro. And the reason why is, even if you're not a zoom photographer, sometimes you just need to zoom in on a document or something. You just need to zoom in on things in general, and you just can't do the level of zoom that you can do on the iPhone Air. Think if you go to a concert, a sporting event, anything like that, you want to zoom in on things, you don't have the best seats in the house. Just having this extra zoom is cool to get those things done. And, you know, having a single camera does limit that to just 10 times. Also, having the ultra wide is pretty awesome. Now, the front-facing cameras are exactly the same, so I can't give the Pro any credit there. But I definitely have to say I have missed it. And the reason why is because this is like $1,000 plus phone, and having more zoom would have been kind of nice, because even some cheap budget phones have like 3 cameras. They have more zoom. Some people say they don't really care about the zoom, but they really miss the ultra wide, and I could see why. A lot of times you just want to get things in frame. You don't want to physically have to step back to get that thing in frame. But yeah, I gotta say, the iPhone Air, for its standard camera, it's amazing. Like, the actual standard camera, phenomenal. This phone really reminds me of the iPhone XR back in the day that had the single camera, but it was still a great camera. But you kind of still somewhere you wanted a little bit more. And I think that's where the Air 2 is going to solve that problem. But over here, we do have ourselves the same front-facing camera. So if you're into selfies mostly, iPhone Air is phenomenal. It's actually so much better than the competition. It's better than most Android phones on the market, if not all of them, for getting more people in this frame. So iPhone Air, the truth is, I missed that ultra wide. I missed that extra reach. But probably more the extra reach for me, the telephoto reach. I missed that. Now, for some of you, it's going to be the ultra wide. But in general, I think most of us can agree that this does need a second camera. I don't think they're going to give it more zoom, though. I actually think they're just going to give it the ultra wide and still keep with that 10x zoom. I don't know. Maybe they could do some software tricks to get that 15x, but I don't see it happening. I really don't for that area. Now, ergonomically, which phone was the better experience? The truth is that the iPhone 17 Pro, you'd be surprised. It's like smooth and aluminum, and it feels beautiful, but it's got some heft to it. It feels rather hefty, and that's mostly because it's got a pretty chunky battery for its size. You can feel that battery weight kind of like at the bottom of this phone. I would actually say that the iPhone 17 Pro feels literally like a battery pack. It feels like a small battery pack. It's a little bit like bottom heavy. Like at the bottom, it's pretty heavy, a little bit less heavy at the top, but you can just feel it. It's just a weighty battery inside this shell, and gives it that weight. Now, for some people, they will associate that with like, this is a premium, this feels beautiful and hefty. For me, I personally like the Air because it just feels easier to hold in terms of like the weight. However, one thing I don't like is that the Air's reach, because of the height of the screen, is a little bit annoying. So I think these kind of trade the two things that I really enjoy about an everyday phone, and that is the iPhone 17 Pro has the really great one-handed, good screen size of 6.3. Love the 6.3. I think it's the best screen size. The iPhone Air has the weight I prefer. So I think the iPhone Air at 6.3 would have probably been a bit of a better option than it is at 6.5. Some are going to disagree. They're going to say that's the sweet spot. 6.5 was the older Maxes. But at the same time, it kind of takes away its like super thin and light factor, because then you're still dealing with this like super long reach up to the top. So it's like it's light and thin, but still hard to maneuver sometimes. So for that reason, I do think that ergonomically, I actually preferred the iPhone 17 Pro for its like one-handed experience. But I do like the weight of the iPhone Air, and it's actually crazy light how light this phone is. The iPhone Air gave me, honestly, I haven't experienced this in years, but I was always like reaching in the pocket, like, where is my phone? Like, I would freak out, like, did I drop the phone? Like, did it slip out of my shorts? Did it slip out of my pockets? Because it's that light. You can barely feel it. Now, if you put a hefty case on it, you're just going to ruin the whole experience anyway of this phone, because it just turns it into a regular smartphone weight if you do that. But if you use it rather bare or with a very thin, super light case, you'll probably experience these phantom You might feel like your phone's not even in your pocket. That's how light this phone feels. Never felt like that with the 17 Pro. This thing, again, like I said, feels like a little battery pack, feels a little hefty in the pocket. That's for sure. Now, thermally, the iPhone 17 Pro, I don't care what I was doing. I could have been playing a game. I could have been downloading an update. It never really got too warm. I did find it to get a little bit warm when plugged into a charger. It was low battery and I was downloading a major iOS update. But other than that, the actual phone itself tend to stay extremely cool to the touch, even when playing games. So I really enjoyed that. Now, it can heat up if you're in like hot conditions outside. You have it on max brightness. Like any phone's going to be tested to its limits there. But comparatively to old phones, some of the older phones got extremely hot by comparison. Now the iPhone Air, though, the truth is that, at first when I was indexing, downloading updates, it was also getting extremely hot up here in this area. Well, I shouldn't say that. That's a little bit of an exaggeration. They get extremely hot. It got warmer than I would like. I'm going to take that. I'm going to walk that one back because that's a little bit ridiculous of a statement. It got a little bit warm up here, more noticeable than over here. Because when you're cramming the components up at the top, of course, that they're going to be a little bit stressed under a heavier load. But for its actual size and thinness, what's always shocked me about this is the durability. It felt very durable. Like it's not going to bend, it's not going to break. And it felt rather cool to the touch compared to even like a 15 Pro and Pro Max. So this has better thermals than some of the older phones that were thicker. So that's pretty cool. It's good that this is great. Let's just put it that way. This is more like 16 Pro Max kind of thermals. This is more, the newer unibody aluminum. So I'm not going to be upset if they stay with the unibody construction on the iPhone 18 Pro series. It's simply because I like the thermals. But I'm not going to say they're the best looking. They're definitely some people are going to love this design. Some people aren't. The iPhone Air is probably one of the best looking, if not the best looking, of the iPhone 17 lineup. Let me know if you agree or disagree down below. Now, 10 months later, when it comes to the battery life difference, it's just, there's no contest. We already know what I'm going to say. The iPhone 17 Pro has blown this phone away. It just lasts significantly longer. When I say significantly longer, I'm talking about 2 hours per day on actual screen time use. So if I'm reading the news or whatever, watching a YouTube video, watching, texting, doing whatever all day long on the smartphone, the iPhone 17 Pro just seems to last longer. So I do enjoy that. Now, and I also don't really have to manage or watch its battery level as much, just simply because it doesn't drain as quick. Now, I don't want this to come off because I think in a lot of my videos, I make it come off a little bit too much like the iPhone Air has bad battery life, but it actually doesn't. It actually has good battery life, but it's nothing like, overly impressive. It's actually more like some older Max phones. It's actually better than some like way older Max phones, but I would say it's something like a 15 Pro Max in battery life, maybe even a 14 Pro Max. It lasts a full day, but you're going to need a little bit of a cautious, when you're going out. Make sure you charge it up and make sure you're watching it because you might get a little bit tested with that one if you're going hard on that specific day, for example. How have these phones, if I'm being truthful here, have they changed how I use phones? Have they changed how I use phones? And no, actually, they haven't changed it too much, but I will say the Air was the phone that made me feel like I was using something new all the time. It just feels special. It feels like something different, but it also was more mental management because I do have to watch the battery. Now, I've heard comments, people saying, bro, you buy the dang phone. They're meant to be used. Use it. I mean, you could simplify it like that if you want, but the fact of the matter is that if I'm doing things and I'm relying on the phone for certain aspects, I got to watch the battery. Whether you buy it to use it or not, I'm watching the darn thing because I need to make sure that it's operating properly if I need to use maps or I need to use something crucial. Banking apps, for example, Airbnb app, for example, travel apps, plane, traveling, whatever. If you Uber, Lyft, you name it. We can go on and on. The list goes on. Some of those apps are crucial for whatever you're doing, navigating about your day. So this one just required a little bit more management. Yeah, you can go ahead and grab a battery pack, bring it with, solves the problem immediately. But if you don't want to do that and you're just going, straight with the phone by itself, then I would say that that's something I noticed. But it also was an exciting phone to use, more confident, every day. It just felt like always like I was constantly using something new and fresh. Reminds me a lot of the iPad Pro M4 that came out a couple years ago that was super thin iPad, OLED screen, just felt different than the other one just because they thinned it down a lot. They just made it feel like a very modern version of what they already were succeeding at. And I love the iPhone Air for that. So I hope it sticks around. I want to see different colors. I want to see an extra camera. I want to see a little bit better battery. One of the things, though, that was a real deal breaker, though, is that the speakers. So I'd really prefer to have 2 speakers on this phone because, you know, it just doesn't feel very good when you're like using the phone and you're blocking one side of it. Yes, they were plenty loud enough and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, the iPhone Pro was just so much better in that respect. So display-wise, though, I got to say the 17 Pro was, and the Air was about the same kind of experience when it comes to actual quality of these displays. But I got to say the comfort factor of 6.3 is pretty good. I actually like the 6.1 size a little bit more for comfort, but 6.3 was almost the same. They just stretched the bezels out to get that at 6.3, so it's almost the same thing. But this is just kind of like the sweet spot, in my opinion. And also, I did find that the iPhone Air had the USB port was a little bit more tiny, a little bit more easy to like miss putting the, like if you're going fast and you're trying to find the port, sometimes you'll like scuff the edges because you're not like, it's just so thin right there and you got to kind of find it there. So it's a little bit hard to put the charging port in there due to the thinness, but it pays off for the lightness and everything. And a lot of people I've been hearing have been saying that they got the Air and they're just not going back to a regular phone. So in my final verdict, the Air shocked me at how good and durable this phone actually was overall. You know, I didn't expect it to be this good for a first model. And I think they really did knock it out of the park. Some of my complaints about this phone are easily fixed, and they're going to be fixed probably in the next version. So excellent first attempt at a thin, super thin phone. I don't know if it's a phone that's going to stay around for several years. This seems to be that experimental category, like the Plus. They went to the Mini, the Plus, the Air. So we'll see what happens down the line. But as of now, if you really want thin phone factor, you know, I would say you don't really got to wait. You can just grab the Air right now. But if you want like those extra features that are missing, they matter to you, like the extra camera, the battery, maybe slightly better battery life, you know, you might want to wait until spring of next year. That's likely when we'll see it. Pro, on the other hand, the truth is this has been so good. Like this phone right here. I wish both these had split screen. I really do, but they don't. But really, the iPhone Pro, it's like you got to poke and prod to find something wrong with it because there really isn't much to say too bad. I mean, I don't really like that look right there. That to me throws off the look. Some people don't like the two-tone design. I do miss the stainless steel, strong build quality overall, but you know, the smooth, easy to hold, it just feels great too. So it's not really an L. Both of these phones are a W overall. So thumbs up if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know your honest truths about what you've experienced, whether you own one of these two right here, or even if you want to discuss another iPhone that you own, drop it down below. I'll catch you on next episode. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.